you set up your hands differently when the guys worry about kicks.
For sure.
You're able to get away with stuff that if
And the gloves are smaller. The gloves are smaller. You don't have
to Philly shell. If
you don't have to worry about a kick or a knee or an elbow or takedowns,
you can defend differently.
Dude, like now it's a fight, right?
Welcome to Thicc Boy Fight Club. I'm your bulking boy.
I'm Tyson the Beast.
And our guest today is Olympic boxing coach Rafael Delgado. Before we get into it, shout out to our sponsors. Number one, Top Mutt Studios, Phallon, Dunn. Clinch Culture, Bearded Bites, Blessed Edibles.
Mo Mind, Kimura, Just for Kicks, Gas Tank, Major Pack.
Kangen Water, number one, Cushion Kangen.
Are we missing anybody else?
If we missed anyone,
Major Pack.
Thicc Boy.
Major Pack. I think I said Major Pack. Thicc Boy. Oh, that's gang off top.
There you go. Thicc Boy.
Top gang.
And for me, the Thicc Boy restaurant shout out of the week is gonna be Plancha. This place just opened back up. They were closed down because of they're inside the mall. So like when all the lockdowns and stuff, they lost a lot of business. But I'm really glad they're open. You guys should eat there after the gym. It's like right by Square One, inside Square One, that food district.
Oh.
And it's Mediterranean, like Middle Eastern food. And they have this rolling pasha, it's like lamb and beef thing, and they have like chicken, salmon, all on like hummus and rice and like a whole bunch of stuff on it. It's
Thicc Boy
fine,
style.
yeah.
Big vibes.
It's good food.
For me, it's not Lakeshore Tobago, but it's still Lakeshore. The Port Credit side, El Jefe. One of my favorite spots to go to. In my opinion, the best steak or chicken nachos in the city. If you like quesadillas, they got the fire quesadillas.
Those are some good quesadillas.
I'm telling you, man. One of my favorite spots. Good margaritas, good vibe, outdoor and indoor. Right there in Port Credit. Really good spot.
You know me, I'm more like the steak guy, so I like the chop. Chop is a big thing for me, and Goodfellas. Goodfellas, yes,
pizza
sir.
spot, right?
You got everything.
Yes, that is the spot.
Where is that?
There's one at
For those who
Streetsville
don't
here.
know. Yeah?
Yeah, Streetsville here, and then there's one in Milton. Usually go to one in Milton. Yeah.
Yeah, the place is fire.
Well, Coach, we've been trying to get you on here for a minute.
For a
You
while.
have.
We're glad to have you.
Yes. It's not like we don't see each other every day, but
Yeah. This is I've been with Coach Delgado a long time. Almost 10 years, I think.
a little longer than that.
Yeah. Putting together my hands. Tyson's been working with him too. He
The best in the
is
city,
the
the
best
country.
in the city, in my opinion, you know. And
Well,
he's
I'm blessed. I'm blessed, guys. Thank you.
You know, and
Thank
he's
you.
got that Latino nice style with trying to get this white boy some rhythm. So
It's a struggle, bro.
it's a
Trust me,
struggle.
I've been
It's a
trying.
struggle, but I'm getting there. So, you know, and he works with MMA guys too all the time.
It's the evolution of the sport. Like it used to be just boxing, but I think as MMA evolved, Jiu-Jitsu evolved, all of a sudden we're having that crossover. So we're having a lot of MMA guys, Jiu-Jitsu guys coming over for the hands. So it's been a good crossover, I think. You know, good evolution.
Yeah, and we talked about that years ago. But
Yeah.
you always used to talk about how MMA guys just don't have good hands, especially like when we first started watching MMA, like when we were at Combat back in like 2011 and 12, and you know, like it's. What do you think of the level of boxing now in MMA? Do you think it's improved enough?
I honestly think that it's evolved so much now because MMA in itself has evolved. Like I mean, I look back to when Horace Gracie was in there, you know, and Shamrock when they came in there. Everything changed back in the day till now. It's like night and day. You know, you got guys that are actually boxing with real boxers. You know, like the Diaz brothers. These guys are like amazing boxers too.
Fighting this weekend.
You know, you look at Anderson Silva, who's always been a great striker.
Look what he just did to
He's
Tito
actually doing
Ortiz.
boxing now, right?
Yeah.
So,
Beating boxers, Chavez Jr.
Yeah. So I mean, like,
What did you think of that fight with Sean?
I'm very interested in your opinion about. I want to hear this.
well, you know, I'm a big fan of his dad, Julio Cesar Chavez. I mean, he was one of the greatest fighters, I think. His son, I don't think he carried the torch. I don't think I think he wrote off his father's reputation, but he didn't have the same desire. Like, it's not that he's not talented. I think he just doesn't have the desire. You know what I mean? Like, and you can have all the pedigree from your dad, your uncle, whatever, but if you don't have the desire, it's wasted.
Well, you know, Canelo, when he fought him, brought how Chavez's first fight as a pro, he made like $25,000 because he was his father, and like Canelo made something like 300.
Yeah.
And it was this point, like, you got this all, you had all the advantages. I was fighting in Tijuana, all these places, and now I remember that was a big deal when they fought each other. So what is your opinion about the idea that Chavez, whether he carried the torch or not, he did go 12 rounds with Canelo. Mark me if I'm correct, he didn't get dropped in the fight. It was a 12-round fight, yet he lost to Anderson Silva in his 40s. Is that more telling of how Chavez was during that actual fight, or do you think Anderson Silva just proven that he maybe should have been a boxer his whole career? Because that's what I'm starting to wonder as I watch him do this in his 40s. Like,
I just think Chavez didn't. He doesn't have desire. Like, I think he doesn't. Just how some people just kind of box for the sake of boxing, but not really because they love it. They just do it because
they grew up in it.
Fighting.
And he also grew up.
Yeah, I don't. He grew up with his dad.
And show me a great man that's the son of a great man.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard.
It's very hard for like the sons to follow the same pedigree, because I think
they
fighters
didn't grow up in the same.
I think the fighters in the 80s, even 90s, I think they were just such a they fought different than they do now. I mean, they actually fought. They weren't afraid to fight anybody. I mean, you look at the great four like Hagler, Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard. These guys, these guys were like kings. You know what I mean? You don't get that anymore. You don't have, I think right now in the welterweight division, you have a couple guys that are making some good waves. Terence Crawford, Spence, and you see a little bit of rivalry here and there. I think when Canelo went up, it was a shame because I like to see him fight a couple guys a little lower. He just moved up now, and it's taken away from that division where he was at, because I think he had a little more competition down there.
A lot more, in my opinion.
I miss that. I miss having that 4 or 5 guys top in that same division where there goes some good fights. We don't have that as much now, right? So
guys care too much about the wins and losses and what their records are going to be like.
Yeah, I think so too. And like I said, it's I think MMA had its time where they were hot. So I think boxing took a little bit of a dip. Guys weren't putting that same work in, weren't getting the same, And then I think boxing starting to pick up again. So I'm hoping we need some stars like.
So I'm gonna ask him a setup question. Who do you credit for the rise of boxing coming back right now?
That's a trick question, but
you know what? Honestly, we brought up your boy Canelo, who's fighting some questionable. Who would you say has brought the most attention to boxing in the last year?
The last year, well, there's been a couple. You can't just say Canelo's a king. I love Canelo. I don't he's honestly really, really, really old school fighter. He goes in there, nothing fancy. He just beats you up.
So what do you think about the Paul brothers now? Both of them having better numbers than Canelo had his last few fights.
What about something like McGregor bringing so many eyes?
It's a new generation. It's a new generation. I don't dislike them. I think they do what they do.
Can they box?
You know what? You can go in the ring with a pro, or like somebody like Anderson Silva that's done MMA for so long, and these guys they're putting their work in. Like I see the highlights on them, and
he beat Woodley.
Yeah, Woodley was a strong guy and ex-world champion, whatnot. But
powerful puncher.
I think they put their work in. They do a lot of trash talking. Everything's YouTube this, YouTube that, but they back it up.
Do you think, to your point about why MMA took over? MMA doesn't matter what your opinion is. Dana White's gonna make you fight the toughest guys.
Yeah,
you can be a champion. You can be gone for a year, and if you happen to be the champ, he's gonna put you in there with another killer.
Yep.
There is no warm-up fights. There's no
Is it fair to say that the reason Jake Paul's numbers have been better than Canelo's is because? Isn't it fair to say Jake Paul fighting Tyron Woodley is a bigger risk than who Canelo's been fighting? Like Canelo is to me. Even though I don't like what's going on with who he's fighting, I still look at him as pound for pound.
He's elite.
1 or 2.
He's elite.
Yeah.
What do you think about when he fights guys coming off of losses, guys who used to be sparring partners? Like, I look at Jake Paul fighting Tyron Woodley and say that's way bigger risk than what I'm seeing. Like, I like Caleb Plant and Billy Joe, but are these guys really risks for a guy at the level of Canelo? Like, do you think Canelo's taking? Is he taking risks?
I mean, honestly, like nowadays, it's not even about the fighters. I think it's more about the promoters, the managers. They're the one making all the moves because they're the ones making the money. And the fighters are just listening. Like, they're, who am I fighting? Okay. It's not like where they challenge each other anymore. Because if that was the case, Terence Crawford Spence would have fought a long time ago.
Okay, but to be fair to you, Pacquiao was about to fight. Now he lost. Pacquiao had no reason to fight Spence. To me, that put my respect for him over Canelo by a mile. Like, who is Canelo even talking about that's as dangerous as Spence? Pacquiao's how old, how much smaller? Isn't it like when you saw that, were you not looking at like, okay, clearly the fighters have a choice if they want? Pacquiao, I know his managers did not want that fight. That was
I think somebody like Pacquiao's a little different because he's like an icon. He actually can pull the strings and say, no, I want this, I want that. A lot of fighters
Canelo can too.
Canelo, I think he's just so happy with his new manager because that guy's just making him so much money. He is. He's making him. Right? And you know what? You can't hate on guys like that because at the end of the day, they're letting the manager do their job.
I'm not hating on Canelo.
You know what I'm saying,
like
right? So his manager's doing his job,
but
which is getting him the money and getting him the fights that everybody apparently wants. Because at the end of the day, even if, like I said, he's fighting Caleb, but who else is there for him to really go?
There'll be interest now after the press conference.
You can ask this. What made a guy like Jake Paul fight Tyron Woodley then? You already have more money than Canelo. You could have fought anybody and gotten those numbers. He could fight an NBA guy and get those numbers.
Because he knows, okay, if it
he
was
wants
an
to be known as a fighter.
He wants to be taken seriously. That's why he's taking these risks.
But think about this though. He fought Tyron Woodley. No disrespect to him, but he's not a striker.
He's not a boxer.
He's more like a wrestler. So there wasn't really a lot of danger for him. Jake Paul trains with boxers and he's fighting boxing. He's not fighting MMA. If it was an MMA fight, that would have been a different thing. It was a boxing match. He knows that's not his strength. Yeah. Jake Paul does that.
He's not picking the boxers from
No, he's not picking like a fighter. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
These guys, both brothers, like, let's respect to what they do. They're making money. They're putting their work in. But they're smart. They're picking and choosing people that are not real boxers. And they're boxing them. Yeah. So
what was your opinion when Canelo fought that former training partner of his who was coming off a loss? Do you think any of the top 5 pound for pound should be fighting guys coming off of losses? Because I've never heard, I don't think Mayweather could have ever gone away with fighting a former sparring partner who was coming off a loss.
I think
with this boxing Logan Paul now. So,
but you know what? But with this pandemic, with this pandemic, it's not like you have a lot of people to pick from, or there hasn't been any events where they're regularly happening. So I think if somebody signs a dotted line and says, yeah, I'll take that fight, bro, it's a fight.
So why do you think he hasn't fought David Benavidez? My favorite guy at that weight. What do you think the hold up is with Benavidez?
And again, I don't think it's up to the fighters. I think it's the managers. The managers don't think it's a good move right now. They haven't made it. It's not the fighters.
And that's the difference, I think, between the UFC, and you can't even say MMA, but the UFC and boxing is because you don't have those options in the UFC.
Well, when you're the pound for pound in MMA, sadly, MMA fighters or fans, we want
the highest level fights.
We just would never. And I guess I'm still.
And that's why MMA
Canelo.
Fighters have way worse records.
You can never be the Canelo of MMA and get away with fighting guys coming off of losses. It's just not going to work in MMA. Yeah. You have to fight killers, and we don't even give guys these.
The biggest legends in MMA have lots of losses in comparison to the biggest legends in boxing. Well, if you compare like 80s and 90s,
and like in the 2000s, but like in the 80s,
those guys had losses.
You have somebody like Muhammad Ali who lost a couple fights, came back with everything against him against George Foreman.
Spinks only
and
you know what I'm saying?
Like he destroyed Foreman, who was unbeatable. He was like the Mike Tyson of his time. You know what I mean? He's lost fights where he's gotten dropped by Spinks. Got his jaw broken, but he's come back and whipped his ass too. So at the end of the day,
but that's
back
in
the day, those were the fights that I was used to seeing.
Yeah, that's what Teddy Atlas always talks about.
Yeah, it's like
it's not a fight until someone fights back. You're just going out there and and just hitting body shots on guys like it's a bag, and then they're dropping.
So, for instance, if let's say Jake Paul's not and Logan don't play these last years. Can boxing afford to keep having these issues where their best don't fight each other? I don't blame Spence for fighting Pacquiao. That's a no-brainer. But if guys like Pacquiao at his age are showing I'm willing to fight, doesn't that make these younger guys kind of look soft when Canelo got out of his DAZN deal? He had no problem making that happen, so he didn't have to fight. So I like Caleb Plant. I think he's a good fighter, but man, it's like
he's a big boy.
I want to see Canelo fight.
I think Canelo's gone up in weight. And I think they're moving him the right way in the sense that they're getting to fight some guys that have a name.
That are kind of
but they're still, I think he can still handle them. But like, that's a smart thing to do. And like, you know what? He's paid his dues. I mean, his first real big test was against Mayweather, and he wasn't ready for that, but he still took it. Yeah. And you know what? Now he's learned so much from that. He's mature as a fighter, so now he's enjoying that.
But look, he learned the most and grew the most after that Floyd.
After that one fight, yeah.
So how are you gonna keep leveling up if you're not taking fights that challenge you?
This is why now, later on in his career, I know he's lost his mind. I respect De La Hoya more.
Yeah.
De La Hoya didn't make these excuses. People forget he was younger than Canelo was when he beat Chavez Jr. For some reason, we act like Canelo was a child and wasn't knocking people clean out. De La Hoya fought Bernard Hopkins, Pacquiao,
Trinidad,
Mayweather, and now he wants to come back and fight steroid Vitor. Like,
yeah, that's a scary fight.
It just disappoints when I see a guy as prime as Canelo fighting the Billy Joe Saunders of the world when De La Hoya wants to fight Vitor Belfort.
But like, I mean, you focus.
Did you see Vitor? Like, he's so.
I mean, ask Evander Holyfield what that felt like. Like, Evander's 58 and took the risk.
But again, we all know took it at last minute for a reason.
He
wasn't there to win. He took the fight at last. And it's a shame because he's a legend.
He's a legend.
I think Evander Holyfield is one of my favorite heavyweights. Not really a true heavyweight, but he's one of my favorite because he's won the world title how many times, and he's gone toe-to-toe with everybody, and he can box. So I mean, for him that to happen to him, it was sad. It was sad, but we knew he wasn't gonna go. He's not there to be competitive. He did it more.
Man, I saw him hitting the pads.
The ref saved him. He got a nice pay. Yeah, I know he wanted to go on. The ref did the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he probably made way more money than we were. Like, I'm
he didn't
sure
get
he'll
hurt
be
too
fine.
bad.
Like, I don't. Yeah.
But you remember,
Tito Ortiz got laid out. Oh man.
I have no sympathy for him though. He was talking big shit.
Yeah,
making fun of Wing Chun.
He had no business though. He had no business being in boxing.
But Anderson Silva does, and here's a good question I have. Who do you think are the best boxers right now in MMA? So like in UFC, like who do you think are the most elite guys that have the best hands? Who impresses you the most?
You know, there's so many. I mean, there's so many guys. Like, I still like the Diaz brothers. I love those guys. Win or lose, I love those guys. They come to fight and they got good hands. You know what I mean?
What do you think about Max Holloway's performance?
Max Holloway is beautiful. Love that guy. He can box. Even Conor McGregor, bro. He can box.
He can box.
You know what I mean? Like, these guys have good hands.
He's losing to the best one. How would you think a Diaz versus Jake Paul fight would go?
That'd be a good fight.
Well, I don't see the Paul brothers. I don't see the Paul brothers asking for the boxers from the UFC.
Well, he said he wants Nate Diaz, and the Dana won't let him out of his contract.
Of course not.
So he asked for a Kamaru Usman too. Wow. Kamaru confirmed that his people reached out to him. That to me blew my mind. I was like, why? Like, this is what I'm saying. Why would Jake Paul want to fight Kamaru
That's elite,
Usman?
you know?
It's like,
and
why
he could test Usman's hands.
I thought he was to fight Masvidal.
Yeah, and he called Masvidal too. So
he called them out, right?
Those are dangerous fighters for a guy with 4 fights.
I think Masvidal can box. I think Usman boxing's improved leaps and bounds since he's gone to work with Trevor Whitman.
Diaz's boxing is tough.
You know?
So that's why I'm like, man, why is this kid taking these risks? But
he's smart though. He's smart. Like he's picking and choosing guys that he knows they're not gonna kill him. Because they're not knockout artists.
Usman and Masvidal, I'm worried about Usman.
Yeah. But you know what, though?
There's a time where I wouldn't have been. Now I'm like...
No, but I'm looking at this like, okay, yes, they're good strikers, but they're MMA strikers. Like, they can kick, they can knee. Like Masvidal, that running knee, that's his thing. Yeah, he can kick.
But he's got a nasty left hook.
He can box.
Yeah, but he wasn't knocking people out with his hands.
It's the mix of everything.
I think that's what you guys forget is the MMA guys
he has a nice left hook win over Darren Till.
He knocks people out, but his point is that you set up your hands differently when the guys worry about kicks.
For sure.
You're able to get away with stuff that...
And the gloves are smaller. You don't have to...
Listen, if you don't have to worry about a kick or a knee or an elbow or takedowns...
You can defend differently.
Dude, like, now it's a fight, right? Max Holloway would do great boxing. He's a great boxer. He would do great boxing.
Okay, so here's an inverse question because I've gotten criticism for my stance on this. What boxer style do you think would translate the best to MMA? When I say, like, an example would be this. If you look at like a Mike Tyson or a Gervonta Davis, they're very aggressive. Mm-hmm. Floyd Mayweather has a very defensive style. Yeah. I've always argued that if you shoulder roll like this against a guy who can kick your legs, I'm taking...
No.
So I'm kicking your leg. I'm kicking your...
I'm going to tear that up. Go ahead and lay up against the ropes and lean and live.
Yeah. No,
who do you think, have you seen him boxing? I always say Lomachenko because of the footwork. I think his style would translate. Tyson, yeah, because when you're...
Gervonta Davis, I think.
Who else? Who do you think is the guy you say, okay, this style, a lot of these things he does... would work in MMA.
Like the kind of style
I think
you try
any boxer that has good angles and good boxing footwork, they're going to be hard to deal with. Like you said, Lomachenko, Pacquiao, even Mayweather. He'd be hard to deal with because his footwork's amazing.
I do think Mayweather would be but
he would change his style.
he
He would not do the Philly shell. He would have to bring his hands up.
But he's already changed it. Even like he's changed that. But he would be. I think he would do really well, right? Even somebody as good as like Lennox Lewis, as big as he was, he moves so good. He would be so hard to take down because he moves so good.
What about someone like Tyson Fury?
So you know what I think would be the best?
He moves so good. Like imagine that guy.
Well, it's true because you're not wearing as much heavy. You know what I think would actually the best, and I look at is Terence Crawford. Most people don't know he's a state champion wrestler. If you look at that heavy front foot style, it's a much easier way to defend takedowns and kicks, and he has that wrestling background. And the switching stances. I feel
but MMA guys are learning now. They're learning they need to have the head movement. They're learning they need to have the footwork, and that's like the true art of fighting too. Is the sweet science is a crucial element to MMA. Like.
Totally agree. So who is your? I know some people don't like the pound for pound, but who do you put, regardless of who they've been fighting, who do you put as your top? Like let's say 3 pound for pound. Like who's number one in your book pound for pound? Like across the board.
I don't know if I have a number one, but like I mean Terence Crawford's way up there.
Yeah,
I like him.
I put him.
I like Lomachenko. Believe it or not, he had the one loss, but
close fight.
It was a close. I don't think he's done. He's gonna be doing really well. I think Spence, amazing
You're not
fighter.
mention Lopez then?
Yeah, those 3 guys. Oh yeah, Teofimo, 100%. But you know, that's what I'm saying. Like those guys there, they got such a nice little quartet that they can do some good work. You know what I mean? And
it's not happening. This is what's
but it's not happening.
Teofimo.
And again, it's not the fighters. It's the management, it's the promoters, and again, that's the problem, right? You know, there are some great fights in boxing. They could have some great fights, but they're not letting it happen.
So do you think this is why there's such a hate for Triller? And now, you know what's funny about you bring up this? Now Showtime is now leading this thing. Do you think this is what, because now I think a lot of fighters don't have, and now that Showtime boxing is behind this, can you really say you have an excuse if Showtime's willing to put Jake Paul up? Are you really trying to tell me they wouldn't do Canelo, David Benavidez? They wouldn't do like, are boxers going to be able to keep using their management? Now that Showtime, the biggest of the biggest, do you think that, because now it's very interesting. Showtime's basically said, you can't blame us anymore. We're letting YouTubers fight.
Yeah.
Like, do you think this is going to kind of start exposing a lot of this? Oh, it's my manager. Because Showtime's as big as it gets.
Well, I think the fighters at one point or another, I think this is where we're talking about Pacquiao. I think at one point or another, the boxers are going to say, okay, I don't want to do it for the money anymore. I made enough money. I want to do it for legacy. And I think like Pacquiao wanted to fight Spence was for legacy.
Exactly.
I think a couple of the fighters are gonna go, you know what? I want to be the best. I want to be recognized as the best, pound for pound, the king. And the only way they're gonna do that is they're gonna have to fight the big boys.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have to go, no, I want that fight. You know, right now, like I said, the guys are playing it safe. They're making their money. They want to retire, no brain damage, happy. I think that's where a lot of, I think in the last 10 years, I think a lot of fighters decided, well, I don't want to end up like this guy or that guy, brain dead, no money. And it's a shame, but it's part of the sport that, you know, fighters make so much money, Tyson included, and they either get robbed or they spend all their money, then they're in trouble with the tax people and they're broke, you know what I mean? And I think the new generation kind of doesn't want that. They want to make sure that they're safe, they're set.
Are taken care of.
Yeah. So I think, you know, somebody like Canelo, for him, it's like, yeah, you're making me money. Yeah, I'll just fight. Okay.
I guess I knock more Canelo. I guess it's more for his fans that drive me nuts when they call him. He's like, you can't be fighting guys off a losing record. In MMA, we would never ever accept that. Yeah. Can you imagine Khabib, his fight coming back against a guy who came off a loss? We would be like, what? Like, we would never respect Khabib fighting Conor again, and that's still Conor McGregor.
And Conor got big because he fought the best guys.
Yeah, like
we
we
fought
would
the
never accept
absolute
that.
Best guys.
Like we would never accept Usman fighting anyone coming off of a loss. Like we just wouldn't accept. And so it's like that's what blows my mind about this.
But it's a different cultural thing right now.
It's very different.
So about your Teofimo Lopez
the boxing.
MMA guys don't make the kind of money boxers can make.
No, boxers are making a little more money, and like I said, I think they're just trying to set themselves up for the future where they're safer, they make their money, and you know what? I think the promoters and the managers have more power now than they did before. So now they're really enforcing that. They're like, now, You're on contract. You're not allowed to fight unless I say it's okay.
So what do you? Because we were talking about Teofimo Lopez. What do you think about when Bob Arum, the guy everyone hates,
Yeah.
they had the bid for the fight and Triller won the bid, right? Like Triller was able to cut him out because somebody else had money. So like, how do you think this is gonna play out moving forward? Because now he's fighting after fighting Loma for free on ESPN. He's now on a ESPN or a pay-per-view card.
Yeah.
How do you think this is gonna play out for a lot of these guys now that Triller and these players are willing to buy the fight and cut Bob Arum out, right? Because Bob Arum clearly was very pissed off.
Yeah.
I don't think he believed it was gonna. But I don't think he thought anybody cared enough to put that type of money up on the fight. Like,
Right.
how do you think this is going to play out for, like, let's say Teofimo Lopez specifically? Like, how do you think this plays out if he wins this fight against Kambosos? Do you think he goes against Loma? What do you think he does?
You know what? I don't think they want to give Loma a rematch, and rightfully so. I don't think he wants to take a risk. That's a bit risky fight from. I like Loma. I think Loma's amazing. But I think these guys are looking for big money fights.
Will he be able to avoid it now? Because is there any, like, in your opinion, unless he gets Gervonta, is there anybody bigger than Lomachenko for him to fight right now, after this Kambosos fight?
I would love to see him and Terence Crawford go at it if they can.
He killed. He's way too small.
But you know what I'm saying? They want the big fights.
You want to see Lopez go up against?
Yeah, you know what? He's gonna go up. He's gonna go up.
Yeah, but not again. That's not the guy to start your career.
You know what?
141.
For me, I just want to see Crawford fight because I think that kid brings a lot of heat. Like
he's fighting Porter, right? I believe.
Yeah, he's fighting Porter. And like that's gonna be a fight.
Well, because I thought Lopez might go up and fight Josh Taylor, but I'm hearing Josh Taylor is even talking about Gervonta Davis because, to your point, okay, so that's a good example. Josh Taylor now, just because it's a bigger fight, he's willing to fight a killer. Like now he's talking about he might want to fight Gervonta Davis. Like, what do you think his logic is there wanting to take that? Because that to me is a risk.
I think it's all, these guys all want the big money fights that they think they have enough to win. I don't think they're taking a risk because they're not really taking the big fights, right? Like Gervonta Davis is an amazing fighter. That guy's a killer. I love that guy. Nobody wants to touch him unless they know, okay, there's got to be a recipe to beat this guy. Something like Taylor is really good because he's a good mover.
He's a lot bigger than him.
Yeah, he's a good mover. He's a good boxer. He's got a good name. I think even him and Teofimo be a good fight. You know, that'd be a great fight too. But I want to see the big boys go. You know what I mean?
So out of those three, because I know that's kind of the conversation, who do you think would end up, let's say all three end up fighting in a year from now, who do you think would end up champ at 141 between Taylor, Lopez, and Gervonta? Like, let's say they all end up there and it happens. Triller says, we don't care, we'll buy the fight. Who do you think is the champ a year from now between those three?
I like Teofimo right now. Right now.
That's not a bad statement.
I like Teofimo. I mean, Davis, he's shown that he's got power going up.
Yeah, he does.
I hope he got power.
Christ.
You know,
He's good.
the guy walks around huge, so you know what I mean. He's got power.
170, they
Thick
say.
boy for real.
I don't know.
Yeah,
how
so
makes
he
weight.
got pop on him. If he can stay focused, he could do some damage, like with all these guys, right? But I think with the fighters right now, just staying focused and being patient, because like that right now, it's just a waiting game. Everybody's just waiting to see what they can get. You know, everybody's just waiting to see, give me some scraps here, give some scraps there. But nobody wants to take the big fights, you know what I mean? Like, I like to see some big fights, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen because everybody's playing it safe.
So before we wrap up, so your top three dream boxing matches of 2022, let's say, if you could have, like, in a perfect world, 2022 is announced. Any three weight classes, like obviously within a realistic two people, what would be the top three fights that Coach Delgado wants to see happen?
Canelo Benavides, 100%.
That's wild.
Okay.
Davis Lomachenko.
Davis
Nice.
Lomachenko, oh, I would love that.
I would love that.
And I like,
Southpaw,
hard to believe it'll happen,
man.
but I would love that.
and I like to see Spence come out and like fight either Crawford or
Yeah, that's the fight that needs to happen. Come on.
I mean, I
There's
want
no
to see
other
that
fight.
one. That's a big one for
I'm
me,
not gonna
right?
rely on
So
Coach. Those are three
Yeah.
solid ones. What about
Yeah.
you? If you could pick even just one big one boxing match.
I wanted to say Lomachenko Davis. I'm surprised. That's
No, that's a fair statement. Then that's a fair one.
Because that's like nobody talks
what about in the
that one.
heavyweights? How would you guys like to see like the big boys go?
We're about to
Well,
find
when
out.
are we gonna see Tyson Fury and
It's next weekend, right? 29th?
Yeah, it's coming up. So I like to see actually.
U6 fighting out Anthony Joshua.
So Joshua and Wilder, I like to see that.
So it's a 4-round fight, basically. Whoever wins out of those two.
I think if those two go at it,
I want to
think
see Joshua Fury more than Joshua Wilder.
So Joshua has to fight Oleg and beat him, and then Fury has to see Wilder. You'll get it. If that's what happens, you'll get it.
Well, we might get that one.
You know? But I'd be happy with Wilder Joshua.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think this is going to be Wilder Tyson one's going to be great. So, Coach, tell people where they can find your information, any information about the gym, your social media, where they can contact you. One of the best pad work overall coaches in the city. I vouch for that. Go ahead and
exclusive.
plug yourself.
Right now, like I said, we've been at our gym and Matheson. We've been 450 Matheson in Mississauga for the last 2.5, almost 3 years now. And I mean, if you guys want to come, there's going to be a lot of restrictions, I guess, in the city, this and that. But I'm trying to avoid a lot of these headaches. It's basically by private, by invitation or by appointments. But yeah, we do have the boxing primarily. We do have some kickboxing. And we do have a little bit of MMA guys here. So we have a little bit of everything in our gym.
What about where people can contact, like your social media, where people?
I'm on Instagram, Delgado Boxing, on Instagram, and you can catch me on Facebook also. Both of them are under Delgado Boxing.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming again, Coach. We've been trying to get you
pleasure,
on here.
guys.
Awesome.
This is my thing.
Getting this type of knowledge from you. So, guys, make sure you guys check out Coach. Like I said, one of the best in the city. With everything happening, I know a lot of places are going to be harder to get into in terms of training. He's one of the guys that has amazing facility.
Yeah, and if you're an MMA guy and you want to get your
assistant coaches,
if you want to get your
best
hands
assistant
right,
coaches in the city. Period. Is just what I hear.
It's the Thicc Boy headquarters. And if you're an MMA guy and you want to get your hands right, that's the spot
the guy
to go.
Come see.
There we go, guys.
So, Coach, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
I'm
You guys
Tyson
are
the Beast.
amazing here.
I'm the Balkan Boy.
And that's Coach Delgado. We're the Thicc Boy.
Thicc Gang.